So good morning everyone, my name is Lalit Soni and I welcome you all in this live session by Drishti IAS. We couldn't come live yesterday, so we will be discussing one or two articles from that. Most of them are important for you. In today's discussion, we will be going for certain things, or you can say here you can see RBI at 90. So 90 years of RBI, we will be talking about it. A snapshot, we will be discussing the recent events after 2014. Okay. So after there is a regime change, we will be talking about certain events and how this government or the policies has actually changed the financial perspective, or you can say the scenario in the country. Okay. Then what is COSO? So basically this COSO is a solar observatory. So we will be talking about that. Okay. Then what is Kalakad? Okay, so these are certain types of event, or you can say climatic events which are happening on the southern coast, you can say, or the you can say Kerala coast. Okay, so we'll be talking about that. Okay, then around the world we will be discussing one issue that is basically related to an island which is between basically under the sovereignty of Sri Lanka since 1974, but there has been these discourses in the public domain recently, so we will be talking about that. This is the front page of the newspaper, so I don't have to go through it because most of the news are political in nature. This is related to your bail to Sanjay Singh from Aam Aadmi Party. Then here PM 10 years of power, Congress talks of burning nation, is it democracy? These are some attack which are happening because of the elections. So we will not go into details of all these things. Okay. So then moving further, we will be starting with the practice question which was given to you in the previous lecture. Which Indian state is known to have largest population of Great Indian Bustard? Okay, so we have discussed about Great Indian Bustard in the last session. So I hope you remember it. I would want you to comment IUCN status because that is important for you. Other than that, there are certain states in which these Great Indian Bustards are found. Here you can see Rajasthan, then Gujarat, then Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, and Andhra Pradesh. So these are the states where you can find population of Great Indian Bustard, but majorly if you see, you will find their population in this particular area of Run of Kutch and desert of Thar, etc. But most, or you can say the maximum population is found in Rajasthan. Okay, in Rajasthan we have a desert national park, in Jaisalmer. Okay, or some of it is in Barmer and Jaisalmer. So basically, this is the area of you can say it is the area which can be considered as the habitat of Great Indian Bustard. So they are asking about largest population. So option A would be a right answer, that is Rajasthan. Okay, this particular map becomes important for you because of various reasons. Okay, now this particular species can be asked in your prelims because it has been in news recently because of their habitat loss. Other than that, there are some power grids, or you can say power lines, and they are dying because of encounter between these power lines and these birds. Okay, now moving further, here we will start with the first you can say article of the day, that is related to your RBI. Okay, there was this explained section, so I have not gone for that explained section. I have taken this article because here they have talked about the policy of the recent governments. Okay, if you have any kind of interest in the economic changes in India, or you can say how RBI has been important to us, so you can go through that explained article. Okay, other than that, I would think that this would suffice for you. Now coming to the article, PM to RBI on day 1 after swearing in, lot of work coming your way. So basically being optimistic, PM has said that for the next term when they will be swearing in as a prime minister again, then he is indicating that there is a lot of work which has to be done by RBI, so they have to be prepared for that. And the rationale behind it was that there are certain sectors of the economy which need attention, which we are actually thinking that they can boost our economic growth. Okay, so now PM has said that you have to work on those sectors as well. Okay, so here you can see Prime Minister Narendra Modi told the Reserve Bank of India to think ways of support new emerging sectors such as space, green energy, digital technology and tourism in the coming days. Obviously, we are doing good in the space sector. Then green energy is important sector because we are targeting to adapt to or mitigate the climate change. Okay. Afterwards, this is digital technology. We are having this public digital infrastructure. Okay. So, or you can say digital public infrastructure, that is DPI, and India is kind of leading in that particular area. So, basically that is why we are saying that these areas are quite important, and now RBI has to focus on that. What it means is that there are certain credit you can say schemes which can be there in the future in these particular areas, okay, and RBI has to regulate it. Now, and tourism in the coming days, because a lot of work will be will come in your way once the government takes oath, okay. Now, coming to this particular section here, there is a need to improve India's self reliance so that countries is shielded from any kind of adverse event otherwise which is happening around the globe. So, basically you know that we are living in a globalized world, okay, wherein our economies are interconnected. Other than that also, most of the things, or when we are talking about the oil etc., okay, we are quite you can say dependent on imports, okay, and this oil or energy sector, when we are talking about energy sector, is the you can say engine behind the growth, okay. So, we are saying that we want to be self reliant so that we don't have to depend on other countries for the import, and if we are not dependent on them, then we can say that if there is some kind of crisis or some kind of shock which is happening in the global market, that might not affect India, because we are self reliant and we don't need other things. So, basically that is a good way to go forward, because when we are talking about the domestic economy, always domestic economy should not be dependent on the imports, we should be self reliant, okay. But the view that we will actually lose this interconnection, that might not be the case, because obviously at this point of time economies are so interconnected that we will rely on each other for certain things, okay. There are you can say advantage, some countries have advantage in certain sectors, okay, and we have advantage on certain sector, but the overall if we see, we should not be dependent on imports, okay. So, that is the idea behind it, and that is why we are saying that we are going for the green energy, we are going for the space, we are going for the digital technologies which are quite important these days, okay. Now, with this contribution of 15% to the global GDP, India has become the growth engine of the world. That has been said by various you can say organizations. Let's see IMF, or when we are talking about the World Bank's reports etc., and RBI's reports, they are saying that India is being the engine of the growth when we are talking about the global growth, okay. Now, India has become the growth engine for the world. In such cases, the effort should be that the rupee is more accessible and accepted in the world. So, when we are talking about that, we are having 15% of the world GDP. So, obviously our currency should be acceptable around the world, and for which what we have to do is that we have to make sure that we go for the more and more transactions in rupee, and this currency is accepted globally. For that, you can do certain things, that we have this SDRs, special drawing rights. When we are talking about IMF, you know that we have SDRs. If you don't know, please go and check what are SDRs. Basically, it can be considered as a IMF's reserve there are, and they can be considered as a you can say a currency or a instrument which is valuable, and according to the percent of these SDRs in the IMF, you will have the worth of your currency, okay. So, basically now what we are saying is that since we want our currency or rupee to be more accessible, we are saying that these rupees should be made part of SDRs, okay. So, there are certain hard currencies like dollar, and then Chinese currency, there is then pounds are there. These are certain hard currencies which are basically part of your SDRs. Then when we are talking about gold, gold is also part of SDR, okay. Now, we are saying that we can make rupee also part of SDR. Once rupee is part of SDR, rupee will be more accessible. You can go for the more transaction in the rupee, and countries won't even you can say register to that. Now, here there are certain measures which can be taken, including inclusion of the rupee in the special drawing rights SDR basket, recalibration of the foreign portfolio investors, whatever FPIs are coming to India, we can go for the recalibration regime to accelerate the pace of the internationalization of rupee, okay. So, when we are talking about this, as I told you, we will be talking about some policies after 2014. When 2014 this government came into being, or you can say in the regime, there was this NPA crisis, there was this twin balance sheet crisis, okay, or you can say there was this issue of inflation. So these were the issues at the hand with the government, and government has gone for certain you can say actions which has been taken by this government to make sure these issues are sorted. Okay. So when we are talking about NPAs, so at that point of time these NPAs are very much, or you can say they were nearly in 2018 when we are talking about, they were somewhere around 11.25, and now when we are talking about the recent time, it is nearly 3% or below 3%. Okay, so government has done well on that front. So when we are talking about this NPAs, after that you must have heard about this insolvency and bankruptcy code. Okay, and other measures has been inculcated at that point of time. So here you can see India's banking sector was facing different challenges, that is higher NPA. Everyone has doubt about the banking sector's stability and future, because if there is a high non-performing assets, so obviously the loans which has been given by the banks which will not return back to the bank, ultimately that will have a bad impact on the bank's health. Okay, so that is why we did not have much you can say confidence in the stability of the banks. Here public sector banks were unable to provide required push to the country's economic growth. Obviously if they don't have money, how will be the these banks will provide you the for economic growth. Then ultimately what we did was the government has gone for the infusion of the money, or you can say some capital was infused in the banking system. So basically nearly 3.5 lakh crore has been infused in the public sector banks, and ultimately these banking system started to perform again. Okay, so afterwards in insolvency and the bankruptcy code to resolve bad loans worth rupees 3.2 lakh crores, and gross NPA or non-performing assets of the bank which were around 11% or 11.25% in 2018 has dropped to below 3% in 2023. So basically right now when we are talking about NPAs, the number is nearly less than 3%. So please remember that. Okay, so that was one basic you can say achievement at that point of time, that is your insolvency bankruptcy code and going for the reduction of NPAs. Okay, then comes twin balance sheet issue. Twin balance sheet issue is a issue wherein banks are, or you can say economy is suffering from two kind of issues. Okay, let's see here. Here you can see it typically refers to a situation in which both banking sector as well as the corporate sector. Banking sector, here you are talking about your financial institutions like bank which has the capacity to give loan or which has the capacity to give push to the economic growth, and corporate sector which is basically a sector which will take loan and then invest in the economy and produce some returns. Okay, but the thing is at that point of time neither banks had money to go give the loan because of the NPAs. Okay, and corporate sector was not performing well at that point of time, because you know that after 2012 when we are talking about, this growth started to slow down. Okay, so at that point of time corporate sector was also not doing good, so their balance sheet was not good. When we are talking about the banks, they were also not doing good, that is why their balance sheet was also not good. So ultimately that is your twin balance sheet crisis. Okay, so that was another issue. Then afterwards we have gone for the unified payment interface or UPI, and we know that recently we have seen that there is a continuous increase in the digital transactions, nearly 1200 crore transaction taking place per month. RBI is also working on the central digital currency. This is important fact. Okay, this has been in the news for last 2 years. So RBI is working on the central digital currency. Okay, so that is another thing. Like rupee, we have a tender note with us. Let's say we have a 100 rupees note, so it is a legal tender. Okay, so no one can deny that. So similarly there will be a digital currency which will be released by RBI only, so that will also be a legal currency. Okay, then use of artificial intelligence and machine learning. India can excel in the digital public infrastructure, or here they are saying that in the finance sector, or you can say in the banking sector, we can use AI and machine learning. Okay, so that is the use of technology which you must have seen in various like UPI etc., or when we are talking about this stack. When we are talking about this digital public infrastructure, we have this stack which is group of all these platforms like UPI, Bheem, or payment interface systems, or there is this IMPS etc. Okay, then next issue was related to your inflation. Okay, to curb the inflation, we know that there is this monetary policy committee. Okay, there are certain 6 members, and then 3 members will be from the government, 3 members will be from your RBI, and chairman would be your RBI's governor, and he will have a casting vote. Okay, they will decide the monetary policy scenario. Okay, repo rates they will decide, and repo rate is the rate which will govern the another rates. Okay, So that monetary policy committee was set up in 2016, okay, and it was given a target of you can say inflation to keep it in check up to 4%, and there was a bracket which was given, that is plus minus 2%. So basically you can say that from 2% to 6% you have to manage the inflation, but preferable target would be 4%. You have to come around this 4%, okay. So basically target of monetary policy committee is to go for stability of the inflation in the economy, okay. So these are certain things which has been taken care of by the RBI in the recent years, okay. Now that is all about this article. So please remember 2-3 things, that is what is NPS, what is twin balance sheet crisis, and what are this digital public infrastructure, what is stack, okay. Other than that, please remember the data related to NPS, or you can say there are certain data related to inflation which has been changing with the monetary policy committee reviews every 2 months. So basically keep a tab on that, okay. Now we can go forward with the next article. This twin balance sheet we have discussed. Now how India's first solar observatory was set up in Kodaikanal, okay. So Kodaikanal is a place wherein this particular solar observatory was set up for the first time, okay. Why it was set up? Because there was these droughts, okay. So because of these droughts there was huge devastation over there, many people lost their lives over there, okay. And when we are talking about these droughts, these were in 1817 somewhere, okay. So at that point of time we have realized that because these droughts are because of the certain solar activities, or you can say when we are talking about the solar emissions, okay, because of which these emissions have some kind of effect on the earth as well, okay. So because of which we have gone for such droughts, okay. So after that it was realized that we have to make sure that we read the atmosphere of the sun, we read these solar fumes or emissions, so that we can basically be ready for that, okay. So keeping that in mind, there was this particular observatory which was set up in the time of British India, and it was set up in the Madras, or you can say Kodaikanal, in the Tamil Nadu area, okay. So now let's see. Since ancient times, seafarers and mathematicians, astronomers, physicists have studied the sun, which is true. In 1792, British India established Madras Observatory as first of its kind facility in this part of the world, where early solar and other astronomical observations in India begin. So basically in 1792, you don't have to remember this because they will not ask you this, okay, because this is too much details of a data, but they will not ask you this. On April 1st, 1889, it was merged with the Kodaikanal Solar Physics Observatory, and then it becomes Kodaikanal Solar Observatory. So that is basically your Kodaikanal Solar Observatory, that is KOSO. So as I told you, what is KOSO? KOSO is a solar observatory which is established in the Kodaikanal by British India, okay. Now roots in the great drought. As I told you, there was this terrible drought in 1875. There are various reasons related to it, okay. So Madras and the Mysore province between 1875 to 77, and other areas like China, Egypt, Morocco, these were also suffered, okay. So at that point of time, because of these great droughts, we have decided that we should go for observation of the sun, okay. There were other reasons as well, like El Nino or Indian Ocean dipole at that point of time. So basically all these phenomena are basically governed by the, you can say, somewhere from the solar insolations, okay. So ultimately the El Nino, strong Indian Ocean dipole, warm North Atlantic Ocean condition, all these things are result of strong solar insolations, and that is why we have to go for the observation of the sun, okay. And that is why we have gone for this particular observatory. Why Kodaikanal was chosen? So there were other areas, or you can say remote areas, which were also considered, like Leh or Ladakh, or some other areas were also considered, okay. So here you can see somewhere Leh, Mussoorie, Shimla, okay, and they have taken these hilly areas because obviously to observe the sun we should not encounter any kind of obstacles. So they have gone for the hill stations, okay. So basically at that point of time, when we are talking about Leh, Mussoorie, Shimla, all these parts in North India, they had some kind of obstruction because of, let's say, fog, etc., or you can say some kind of events which are happening over there. These are areas despite low population, but they were populated at point of time, okay. So these were rejected because of being too mainstream, dusty and cloudy, okay. and that is why we have seen that because of this dust etc., there can be an obstruction, and that is why we did not go for it. Then we came to South India, and then we have seen certain areas like Kodaikanal, Palani Hills etc., Kotagiri Hills. These are hills. I would suggest that please go and mark these hills in the map, that is Palani Hills and Kotagiri in Nilgiris. Okay, so basically these are the areas wherein we have considered in the South India, and ultimately finally we have selected Kodaikanal. Okay, so this was the ideal location because it was atmospherically, if we are talking about it was stable, and this issue of fog etc. was minimal over there. Okay, so that is why we have chosen this. In 1895 we have gone for the foundation stone. Okay, so that is the history behind the Kodaikanal. And now the thing is, why we are going for the study of sun. Okay, so when we are talking about sun, most of the activities or the atmosphere or the life which is being supported by sun on earth. Okay, so when we are having this planet as a habitable planet, the reason behind is that there is a sun which is the source of energy, which is the source of basically life. Okay, now if we have been a little bit closer to the sun or a little bit away from the sun, life was not possible on this planet. Okay, other than that, that is one thing, because we should study sun, because our life, our planet's life is being connected with the sun's life. Okay, second thing is that sun periodically go for some kind of changes. Okay, in there is a solar cycle that is of 11 years. Please remember this fact, that there is a solar cycle which is of 11 years. In that particular cycle, there on the surface of the sun there are certain changes. There are some spots, you can say. Okay, these spots are called sun spots. Okay, and these spots on the sun, or let's say this is the disk of the sun, there are certain spots. Okay, these spots basically go through certain changes. Okay, their temperature changes, and you can say at particular point of time they cools down. Okay, and relatively they cools down, and then after 11 years they will change their temperature. Okay, so that is basically, you can say, that is sunspot periodicity or solar cycle. Okay, that is of 11 years. Okay, so that can be considered as maxima, when temperature is maximum, maxima, minima. Okay, so you don't have to go into details of all these things, but these things are basically related to your solar emissions or solar flares. Okay, so these things, when they have this high temperature, they emit certain substances. Okay, and then these substances come towards earth or any as a matter of fact every planet, and since we have satellites etc. over there, so they basically somehow interfere with the connections or the satellite functioning etc. Okay, so that is why it is important for us to study sun. Okay, now, and it was basically in the Famine Inquiry Commission at that point of time, when as I told you, there was this drought, and at that point of time there was this Famine Inquiry Commission which was set up by the government of India at that point of time. They have said that there should be a solar observation, or you can say regular solar observation, and because of which this idea of observatory came. Okay. Then why study sun? As I told you, this is the primary source of energy, this is the primary source of life on the earth. Okay, any change on the surface of the earth, or sun, or any kind of change in the mechanism of sun, or you can say any kind of change in the solar cycle or solar flares etc., that will impact our earth. Okay, so that is why it is impacting the earth's atmosphere. That is why it is important for us to go for the observation. So powerful solar storms, solar flares can potentially harm satellite based operations and power grid and navigation networks. So that we have discussed. Then when we are talking about a telescope, okay, for observatory we will require a telescope, that is Bhavnagar telescope. Okay, it was named after the Maharaja of Bhavnagar, but that is not important. Just remember that is Bhavnagar telescope. Okay, then what is happening over here? So basically, initially what they used to do is they used to basically take pictures of the sun, or the disk picture of the sun. Okay, at that point of time they were tracing the bright lines from the sun's atmosphere and measuring the solar radiations and direct photography of the sun in the monochromatic light of calcium and hydrogen. Okay, so that is the initial level. When we are talking about when this observatory was set up, we were not that technologically advanced, but recently when we are talking about this observatory, this has the highest number of digital photographs of the sun. Okay, until the end of the World War II in 1945, Kosovo was dedicated to solar physics. Later it was entered into the arena of cosmic rays, radio astronomy, ionospheric physics etc. recording of all solar radio noise flux, or you can say solar activities, commenced from the 1952. Since 1952 we are basically taking care of, or you can say we are tracking all the activities which are happening on the sun. India's earliest solar observation started in 1952. Okay, so that is one thing you can remember. Then COSO at 125. Why we are discussing about this particular Kodaikanal solar observatory, because there have been these 125 years. Okay, so that is why we are talking about this particular thing. Okay, then wildlife active region monitor has been set up over there with the calcium and the sodium filters to make full disk simultaneous observation of the photosphere and the chromosphere layer of the sun. So basically, as I told you, now we are very advanced. So we have set up this white light active region monitor. Okay, so if you can remember this fact, please do, otherwise not necessary. And this observatory, or you can say, could help reconstruct sun's past and link its behavior changes to understand predict the future impact. Okay, so we study a particular phenomena so that we can predict certain things, or we can know about what was the past things which has happened. Okay, if there was a solar flare at particular point of time, so we can study about that because of those observations, and we can predict the future as well. Okay, so that is the basic idea about this solar observatory. For prelims, they might not go into details from this particular thing, that is India's first solar observatory, where it was set up, that is Kodaikanal, or they can even ask you this, what is COSO. Okay, so similarly, when was the first time we have gone for the recording the data related to this, that is 1952. As I told you, this is the first time solar radio observation has been done. Okay, other than that, all these things we have already discussed. Please remember this thing, why we are studying the sun. Okay, and what is this sunspot periodically, or you can say solar cycles. These two things can be important. Then there is the solar cycle of 11 years. Okay, I hope this is clear. Now we can move further. Okay, what is Kalakad? Okay, please correct me if I am saying it wrong. That is Kalakad. Okay, so what is this particular phenomena? Okay, so this has been made out of two words. Okay, that is Kalan and Kadal. So when we are talking about Kalan, Kalan means a thief. Okay, and when we are talking about Kadal, it means that sea. Okay, so basically in simple language we can say there is a sea thief. Okay, so basically when we are talking about sea thieves, it will give another picture, but the thing is, the locals has talked about this phenomena in a certain way. Okay, so we will see what is this and why this is important, why we are talking about it right now. Okay, so recently hundreds of houses in Kerala, they have on the coast of the Kerala, they have actually witnessed a phenomena or flooding. Hundreds of the houses have been flooded in several coastal areas of the Kerala due to high sea waves. Okay, they are also known as swell waves. Okay, so basically these are your high sea waves. Okay, at point of time these tidal waves, or they reach up to a particular height. Okay, that height is basically unusual than the usual rise in the sea, and whenever there is a tide. Okay, but the thing is, if that is going beyond a particular height or the regular height, that is swell in the sea waves. Okay, so because of these swell waves, or you can say high sea waves, they are witnessing floods over there. Mostly the affected areas are Alappuzha, Kollam, Thiruvananthapuram. Okay, so we have set up relief camps over there. Okay, now these swell surge, or the you can say these high sea waves, are basically known as Kalakad. Okay, so Kalakad is essentially a coastal flooding during the pre-monsoon time. Okay, so when we are talking about pre-monsoon, you know that monsoon strike Kerala coast around in the first week of the June. Okay, so pre-monsoon, when we are talking about, that is April and May. So basically at that point of time in April or May, there is this you can say rise in the sea waves, and because of which there is a flooding, that is called Kalakad, or you can say these are basically your swell surge or the high sea tides. Okay, now the Kalakad used by the local fishermen is a combination of two Malayali words or Malayalam words, that is Kallan and Kadal. Kallan means that is a thief, and Kadal means it is sea. Okay, so Kalakad means that it is arrival of a thief from the sea. Okay, so basically these waves are considered as a thief. Okay, in 2012, this term was formally approved by the UNESCO as well. Okay, so please remember this fact about Kalakad. Now UPSC has tendency to ask terms which has been in news. Okay, and I would suggest that this is a very interesting term from your geography, so please remember that. Okay, and this fact also please remember that UNESCO has approved it 2012. So it is basically a formal term which has been given to these high sea waves. Okay, now what caused Kalakad? Okay, so it is caused by the ocean swell or the surges in the waves over there. Ocean swell occurred not due to the local wind but rather due to the distant storms like hurricanes or even long periodic fierce gale winds. Okay, so when we are talking about gale winds, these are basically your fierce or speedy winds. Okay, so basically what they are saying is that it is not an effect of the local winds. When we are talking about this term Kalakad, so we will see that since this term has been given by the locals, so there are high chances these will be local winds. So no, that is not the case here. So basically what is happening here is that because of certain at a distance place, if there is a certain activity which is building up, or that is a hurricane or a cyclone you can say, which is building up at that particular point of time, particular area, okay, at a distance, and because of which if there is a impact of that particular activity over there and there is a rise in the sea at the coast area of India, or you can say Kerala, then we call such things as Kalakad. And these are not because of the local phenomena or the local winds, it is because of the winds, or you can say speedy winds or hurricane like activities which are happening at a distance. Okay, so that is clear. So please don't get confused with that. So that is one thing. During such storms, huge energy transfer takes place from the air into water, leading to a formation of very high waves. Such waves can travel thousands of kilometers from storm center until they strike the shore. So basically what is happening, let's see, there is a storm which is building up. Okay, so this is somehow this our Kerala coast is. Okay, there is a storm which is building up somewhere else, let's say, and somewhere here of Africa coast. Okay, there is a storm which is building over there, and because of this storm there is some high winds, high speed winds. These winds have energy, they travel, these winds travel, and ultimately they are in contact with the surface of ocean. Okay, so when they are in the contact with the ocean surface, they transfer this energy to the ocean surface, and when they transfer this energy to the ocean surface, this water get an energy, and because of which there is a rise in the water. Okay, so that is basically your sea swell, or that is ultimately when it is striking this area, it is called sorry, Kalakad. Okay, now here you can see we have discussed this. Now usually Kalakad is a consequence of the strong winds in the southern part of the Indian Ocean, where an ocean swell is generated and the waves then travel north to reach the coast of the you can say Kerala or etc. in 2 or 3 days. So basically they are saying that in this part of the world, here somewhere in the southern Indian Ocean, they will generate and then they will travel northwards. Okay, because obviously we know that our movement of the wind is like that. We have this southwest monsoon as well. Okay, so because of this wind movement, they go towards the northern part and then they strike the Kerala coast. Okay. The latest incidents, or you can say when we are talking about this recent flooding which is happening in Kerala, that is because of the you can say low atmospheric pressure moved over the area from South Atlantic Ocean 10,000 kilometers from the Indian Ocean. As I told you, these are the distance phenomena or you can say something that is happening at the distance. So recently there is some activity in South Atlantic Ocean, and from where there are strong winds which are coming towards India, and because of which we are seeing such swells of nearly 11 meters. Okay, so we are facing these floods around the coast of your Lakshadweep and Kerala. Okay, this occur without a precursor of any kind of local wind activity. Okay, as a result, it is very difficult for the coastal population to get advance warning. Okay, so since it is happening at a distant place, we will not have an idea because there is no local activity, and because of which our early warning system might not be able to tell. So there might not be a warning, but recently now when we are talking about, we are monitoring a huge area, so ultimately we will have some idea if that is traveling this side. So if there is a Kalakad like activity which is supposed to be happening, we will get 2-3 times. But now when we are talking about such flooding, this time of 2 or 3 days is not very much time, okay, for the evacuation processes or any kind of disaster management related activity to happen over there. It is not very good amount of time. So that is why we can say that it does not give a readily a warning, okay. However, early warning systems like Swell surge forecast system launched by Indian National Center for the Ocean Information Services, that is INCOIS or INCOIS. Please remember this, that it can be important for you in 2020, giving forwarding 7 days in advance, okay. So if there is an activity which is building, we cannot say that it is moving towards India or not, but if there is an activity which is building in Atlantic Ocean like 2-3 days before, okay, and it is at its peak after 3 days, and then it will move, or it will take 3 days to reach Indian coast, so at least there will be a 7 days gap. So they might tell you about this, that there can be a chance, okay. So now we have this system, that is because of the Indian National Center for Ocean Information Services, that is INCOIS, that was set up in 2020, okay. So please remember this fact as well. Why Kalakad is different from the tsunami? When we are talking about tsunamis are because of the tectonic activity, okay, something which is happening inside the earth, and because of which there is something which is on the ocean surface. Let's say, if we can consider it like if there is an earthquake in the seabed, okay, that will lead to the tsunami, okay. When we are talking about this Kalakad, these are basically because of the winds, okay, strong winds which are transferring energy to the sea surface, and then this water is getting the energy and they are going for the swelling, okay. Why? What is the forecast? So recently for this activity, what they are telling you is that will move toward the Tamil Nadu coast as well, okay. So that is the forecast, but this is not important. Just know that it has hit the Kerala coast, and there are chances that in the future that might hit the Tamil Nadu coast as well, okay. So that is about Kalakad. I would want you to remember what is Kalakad, whether it is because of the distant phenomena or the local winds, what is sea swells, okay, and then when it was started, or when it was actually gained a formal, you can say, status or approval by the UNESCO, okay. So all these things you can remember for your prelims point of view, okay. Now we can move further with the next article, that is related to your around the world Katchatheevu Islands. We have talked about this earlier as well, but recently I would give you another perspective, okay. When we are talking about in 1974, we are saying that this Katchatheevu was given to Sri Lanka, okay. Hold on. So there was this comment regarding the target UPSC series which we have started recently from the 1st of April. So we are going for the revision in that particular series. The question was till what time this particular series will last, or for how many days it will come. So I can say that we will give you nearly some till let's say some 10-15 days before the exam, we will free you from that, but that is the idea. But still this is a very, you can say, comprehensive series that can help you revise the current affairs at that point of time. So please go through that series of target UPSC current affairs 2024. Then we have this MCQ series as well. Please watch that as well, okay. These series will be full of infographics, etc., so that that can be very handy when we are talking for the revision, okay. So please go through that and watch that series, okay. Now coming to the Katchatheevu, as I told you, in 1970s, in 1974, when the Indira Gandhi government has given this particular island to Sri Lanka, or this territory to Sri Lanka, recently it has been in news because of the various reasons. I will not go into those political angles of it, but the thing is, now recently there has been this issue, or you can say that this particular islands discourse has come again in the public domain. People are saying that why we have given this island to Sri Lanka without any kind of consideration. Now there are certain issues related to the lives of fishermen over there, livelihood of the fishermen over there. There are certain, you can say, event where we have seen that Sri Lankan police or the coastal guards are basically arresting people from the India side, or you can say fishermen from the India side, which they are going for the fishing over there, okay. Considering all this situation, this island was in news. So now here we are saying that in 1974 we have given Katchatheevu to Sri Lanka. But now recently there were certain informations or the angles which has come forward. Here you can see government of the day at that time in 1970s has concluded agreement in good faith where both side has won some and lost some. So basically they are saying that won some and lost some. We have lost this Katchatheevu Island, that is one thing. What did we gain out of it? Okay, so here it was a give and take based of realities of that time, and an objective was settled to settle the maritime boundaries. Okay, so the reason behind it was that we will go for the settlement of the maritime boundaries so that there can be a peaceful relation between India and Sri Lanka. Okay, but the thing is, why at a cost of giving our territory to a particular country? Okay, so Delhi was able to get access to the wedge bank with its rich resources. So basically they are saying that it was not for the free. There was this particular wedge bank. Okay, this wedge bank was given to India, or you can say the exclusive rights on the wedge bank was given to India. Okay, we will see what is wedge bank, but now this is the discourse which has come up in the domain that various scholars and the diplomats are saying that that has happened. Okay, so now High Commissioner of Sri Lanka Ashok Khanta said that the agreement of June 1974 on the boundary of historic waters between India and Sri Lanka placed the Katchatheevu on the Sri Lankan side, but it also paved way for the series of other pacts clarifying and confirming the maritime boundaries with Sri Lanka, including the understanding of March 1976, which recognized India's sovereignty over the West Bank and its rich resources. So basically that is a diplomat from Sri Lanka which is saying that we have given this particular area to India, and or you can say sovereignty of this particular area to India, and we have taken Katchatheevu. Okay, the settlement of the contentious maritime boundary issue with the Sri Lanka put the relationship on a stronger footing and provided clarity on the fishing activities, exploitation of the hydrocarbon resources and other rights. So basically they are saying that they have given a clarity on this particular area that Sri Lanka will have a sovereign right over the Katchatheevu, or when we are talking about the fishing, when we are talking about the exploration rights, etc., and India will get this particular wedge bank. Okay, India-Sri Lanka agreement 1976 recognized that the wedge bank as part of India's exclusive economic zone, granting Indian sovereignty rights over the area and its resources. The wedge bank located south of the Kanyakumari is a rich resources, or you can say resource-rich submarine plateau. Now please remember that it is a submarine plateau. What is plateau? Plateau is a area which is having some kind of high level from the rest of the nearby areas, or you can say it is a highland basically. Okay, so if the sides of the seabed are like this, and this plateau will be like this. Okay, so this wedge bank is basically a plateau which is a resource rich area in the south of Kanyakumari. Okay, so in March 23, 1976, Sri Lankan fishing vessels and the personnel were not allowed to engage in the fishing activities in the wedge bank. Okay, but India has permitted certain limited number of Sri Lankan fishing vessels licensed by India to fish in the area for a period of 3 years from that particular, you can say, agreement. Okay, that is favorable for India as it secured sovereign rights to a significant maritime area rich in the biodiversity. So now it has been in the discourse that in the exchange of wedge bank we have given the Katchatheevu Island. Okay, so now let's see the location of this particular area. Here you can see this is your mainland India, and then this is the plateau we are talking about. Okay, so now this is in the India's exclusive economic zones. Okay, so that is basically they are saying that this area has been negotiated at that point of time. We don't know whether it is true or not. It is a statement by the Sri Lankan side. Okay, wedge bank is a 10,000 square kilometer submarine plateau that the sea south of Kanyakumari that is rich in biodiversity and considered India's richest fishery resource. Wedge bank located near Cape Camorin is home to more than 60 species of ornamental fishes and oceanic animals. Okay, so that is about wedge bank. Now coming to the another part, that is Sri Lankan ministers are saying that there is no talk on this island as of now. Okay, for the BJP, the focus on the Katchatheevu appeals to the Tamil sentiments in the state where regional pride carries resonance. So basically this can be because of the elections. Okay, so we will not go into that. India has not sent any official communication yet on the Katchatheevu Island, that is been said by the Sri Lankan minister. Okay, so here you can say this is the mainland India, this is Sri Lanka, and you know that this is your bridge. Now this is Dhanushkodi somewhere here, okay, and this this particular area over here, which this is basically your Katchatheevu Island. And when we are talking about wedge bank, this is the mainland, and here somewhere is the wedge bank. Okay, now we can move to another article wherein Jaishankar has said something about certain things, but we have discussed already this thing. Okay, now our foreign minister has said, external affairs minister, you can say, he has said certain things, that the countries which are making comments like China or USA etc. are making comments on the internal matters of India. So they have said that they should restrict from doing so, because that is not for them to decide. Okay, so ultimately countries shouldn't interfere in the each other's affair. Jaishankar reactions on the Kejriwal arrest, while accusing the Nehru family of foreign policy missteps resulting in the current India-China border and the Katchatheevu issues. External Affairs Minister Jaishankar cautioned the sovereign countries should keep in line with the maryada of not interfering in the internal matters of the countries. In the wake of recent events which is happening, or you can say US diplomats has sent US or United States, UN and United States and Germany, the diplomats of these particular entities have said something about the arrest of Aam Aadmi Party's chief minister or Delhi's chief minister Arvind Kejriwal. So they have given this particular statement that they should not go for such statements. In case of the UN, somebody has asked and they gave a reply, but in other cases I must say that these old habits, these are bad habits. Okay, there is certain maryada in sovereign countries. We should not be interfering in each other's internal affairs. Okay, now Katchatheevu we have already discussed, I will not go into the details of this. And then considering the situation of the fishermen is a concern right now. As I told you, there are concerns related to fishermen which has arose recently. Canada and India around the Khalistani issue, when it was asked, they have said that unfortunately Canadian politics space has given they have given space to the Khalistanis. Okay, so that is why there are certain tensions which has increased in the India-Canada relations. Okay, on the role of foreign policy in commerce, he has said that had we not taken oil from Russia, the cost of petrol here would have gone up. We had to take a stance in the interest of the consumers of India. So basically, foreign policy, when we are talking about, it is not working on the sentiment, it works on the, you can say, reality or the pragmatism. Okay, so basically, despite the Ukraine war, despite India does not favor the wars, okay, still we have gone for purchase of Russian oil, because that is in the interest of India, that is in the interest of the consumers in India. Okay, now moving further, Russia working to remove Taliban from the terrorist list, says Kremlin. Okay, so Kremlin is basically their house, or you can say parliament over there. So why is that Russia is wanting to remove Taliban from the list of terrorists? Because obviously Taliban is right now the authority in Afghanistan. If we for good or bad, we don't know, but the thing is, Taliban is right now authority, or you can say a government in basically Afghanistan. Okay, so obviously countries has to go and negotiate with them. Okay, now they are saying that they will be trying to remove Taliban from that particular area. Now when we are talking about this particular thing, okay, Russia, before USA has entered into Afghanistan, you know that earlier it was a stronghold of USSR. To remove USSR, there was this particular entity which was Taliban. Okay, so Taliban has helped in removing USSR from that particular area. As a matter of fact, we can say that after end of 1980s, or you can say 1989, the collapse of USSR, and because of which USSR was kind of weak at that point of time, and they have left that particular area, and at that particular point of time USA entered into Afghanistan. Okay, now recently USA has left Afghanistan because of struggle between Taliban and USA. They could not control Taliban, or for whatever other reasons, USA has left Afghanistan, giving the power to Talibans over there. Okay, now Taliban earlier used to be an organization which was considered as a terrorist organization, okay, by various Western countries. Okay, now that they are authority, now Russia is saying that we will try to take them off the terrorist list. Okay, so that is the recent development which has happened. Working to remove Taliban from its list of banned terrorist organization. This is a country that is next to us, and one way or another we have to communicate with them. Obviously they are neighbors, so they have to communicate. We need to resolve the pressing issues. This also requires dialogue. So in this regard, we communicate with them like practically everyone else. They are the de facto authorities in Afghanistan. They are talking about Taliban over here. Russians suffered its deadliest attack for 20 years. Recently, the concert hall attacks, which we have already talked about, the Islamic State militants claim the responsibility. Okay, so basically, IS, Islamic States, has claimed the responsibility, and you can say that the Afghanistan branch, or you can say that is basically Khorasan, Islamic State Khorasan. So they have taken the responsibility, and that is why now they are trying to make sure that the Afghanistan authorities are also being you can say have a say in that particular thing. The Taliban returned to power in Afghanistan in 2021 after withdrawal of the US-led foreign forces, but has remained on a list of organizations that Russia designate as a terrorist. Okay, so basically that is about this particular article. I hope this is clear, and for your own read, there is this article that is related to RBI at 90s, snapshot from the history. So as the early years of RBI, or you can say when it was established, RBI was established in 1935. You must have heard you can say read it in the modern history. There are certain regulations under which you must have heard about that as well. Okay, now early years they have discussed. Then reforms of 1991, what was the role played by the economic reforms or LBG by the RBI at that point of time. Then Mr. Manmohan Singh and Pranav Mukherjee, how they played an important role. Then Shubharao Patel versus government. There are certain you can say events wherein there was some tussle between the RBI governors and the government at that point of time. So you can go through this, but I would suggest that it is not important. Then you can read these two things, that is reforms, then 2008 crisis and how they managed, and afterwards you can read all these things. Okay, demonetization, and then we have this MPC Monetary Policy Committee, and in COVID-19 how RBI has controlled the inflation and other things. Okay, so that's about for your own read. Now last section, which is related to your practice question. What is the status of Katchatheevu currently? Okay, you have to see the status currently. What is the status? Here you can see under joint sovereignty of India and Sri Lanka. It is second is it is under the Sri Lankan territory. Sovereignty belongs to solely to India. D is under international administration. So you have to attempt this particular question and answer in the comment box. You have to tell what is the current you can say status of Katchatheevu Island in Indian Ocean. Okay, other than that, please remember the islands of Indian Ocean region, because there are high chances they might ask you about these islands. I have discussed this in the map area as well, so please keep a note of them. With that, I would like to take your leave. I'll see you in the next episode. Till then, have a good day. Thank you.